Welcome to episode 10 of the OCD Backpacker series. I am Matthew Flansburg, your host. Today we have four things we're going to be going through. BIC lighters, essential backpacking gear. Second, we're going to discuss how you can smuggle things through customs and security in Valhalla's biggest terminal, known as the Rainbow Bridge. Third, I'm going to present some arguments about why orange lighters are the only lighters I will typically touch or trust. And fourth, we are going to let you, the listener, the watcher, become a participant in the fate of this poor, decapitated black lighter. So let's start there with this poor soul. Let's get a post-mortem. I'll give you some background. I wanted to figure out how long a BIC lighter would last. So what we did, weighed this lighter. Yesterday it was 20 grams, 0.7 ounces. Today it's 0.6 ounces, 17 grams. So we had a shocking and horrific, totally explainable, but we had a shocking and horrifying decapitation that occurred during the test. So basically what I did is I took the donor lighter, brand new, put it in a series of clamps, opened up the valve, clamped it down, and ran it. Wanted to see how long the lighter would last. To our horror, near a minute 11 in the process, this poor devil, the plastic failed, the spring shot up and launched this guy's head and mechanical parts. So we declared this poor lighter mechanically dead 11 minutes into the experiment. However, this was a fighter. This is why I have to honor this lighter. This is a fighter. I have a lot of respect for this lighter. It kept going. I was expecting it to last about an hour, according to some online resources. I tested it out, and for data purposes, this is at 80 to 100% humidity. We're roughly a mile up elevation. I'll get the exact on that. And the temperature during this experiment ranged from 50 to 70. The experiment happened in 3 parts. I had to stop it mid-experiment twice and then restart. Respiratory death occurred 2 hours and 13 minutes in. I do believe there's about 3 hours of playtime that happened. About 3 minutes, I should say, of prep time when it wasn't turned on while I was timing. So yeah, I would safely say that this lighter lasted 2 hours. Now in a real world scenario, I think this would be, an hour would be a reasonable expectation. This test, during the test, you could tell that the pressure was normalizing and we weren't getting a big flame. And so when you spark it up initially, the pressure difference is gonna use up more gas and then more flame. So I would say that an hour is reasonable to expect out of a lighter. If you've ever wondered how long a standard BIC lighter will last, well, here's our test. We're gonna put this in this contraption, light it, and then do a time lapse. We're looking at 0.7 ounces, 20 grams before this experiment. And I should note I'm using a neutral black, an unaligned neutral black. We'll get to that and that scale in a minute. I've taken off the safety on this particular lighter. So we're gonna light it up. So we're looking at 2 hours, 13 minutes, 38 seconds when I stopped the chronometer. However, the truth is I goofed with this thing for a good minute and a half, maybe 3 minutes total. So I would safely say that this has got 2 hours of life in it. However, you saw the flame and I watched it for the entire duration. And what happened within 11 minutes, the hardware popped off, the plastic failed and popped the hardware off. But we maintained a flame. Now the pressure in there, you know, was doing some funky things. And so I honestly think that the specs on this would probably be an hour of normal usage, because we were pushing that thing, causing a lot of different pressure changes that wouldn't be under normal usage. So that's why we lasted so long. I think 2 hours is pretty incredible, actually. Never done this. Won't ever do it again because now I know. So behind that, I've heard that the striker itself is good for 3,000 to 4,000 strikes. So those are going to be your two fail points: the amount of isobutane inside the lighter itself and the number of strikes that the ferro rod inside the striker has. Interestingly enough, these are refillable, but I wouldn't do them. I wouldn't refill this one in particular, just because of the striker, and what good is a full lighter if you can't strike it. So I think these are pretty much self-contained. I won't be experimenting with refilling any of them. Obviously this one's toast, but yeah, fun little experiment. I'm gonna put this poor soul's pieces aside. I have a solution, and I thought about this, kept me up all night. I'm like, how in the heck do Vikings smuggle things past customs, the Rainbow Bridge? And I found the loophole. It's actually quite simple, and if you haven't thought of it, how would you smuggle something through customs, the Rainbow Bridge, to get into Valhalla? Well, here it is. I found the solution. It's a Viking ship suitable to send a young dead Bic lighter into the afterlife. I mean, what else can you think? You're in an eternal mead hall, hanging out with cool people like Thor. He's got a hammer. Other dudes, they have like other cool stuff. But this is kind of cool. It's a self-contained source of fire. I mean, go back 150 years and you're like looking like a magician. So if you want to send something, and this, I'm sure this works for other things other than lighters, but today we're gonna dig a little deeper into the design and how we're actually gonna send this off, or could send it off, because this evolves into how you, the watcher, person watching the show and looking at this is how you can participate. If you think that this lighter deserves a warrior send-off, I'm willing to torch this thing up and do just that. But we got to do it right. Got to load this stuff. We got to load this up. And I'll break this down for you. Did a custom mast and flag to honor the lighter. We'll get into how this is typically reserved for orange lighters, but yeah, fun. So the design is fire in its heart and sparks in its mind before its brains got blown out. God rest its soul. It's a good lighter. So the oars, take these guys out. These are more ornamental for the actual conflagration that we could participate in. These Titan storm matches actually might be the way to go, but that's where you come in. We're gonna listen to the comments, and any good ideas are open. So, see this? We've got our alternative oars for when we do the ceremonial rites. Now, for orange lighters, I would typically carve this thing out of a single piece of wood to honor them. But I think that the Norse gods would approve in this case. That's the Odin rune, which doubles here for fire in honor of our lighter, who gave 2 hours and 10 minutes of his short but beautiful life to us. So let's look a little bit more at the design. Let's extract. So inside you see the aluminum. Now what I would like to do if I made a production model of this, and I may actually do a 3D wood of this for other people to offer the design up. I think it's funny enough. This prototype took me a few hours, made me laugh. So I was worried, okay, if I'm gonna load this thing up with a bunch of gunpowder, match heads, sparklers, fireworks, and of course, under normal conditions for orange lighters, you would always pick the things that the lighter enjoyed in life. Now, this poor black lighter didn't have much of a life. But you can imagine, you know, what did this lighter help you with? Did it save your life? Did it light a fire? Did it light fireworks? What did it light? And then put that in here. So if manzanita was this lighter's favorite wood, put some manzanita and honor your lighters. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Just show some respect, okay? These lighters die for you, and you just throw them in the pitch? No, not having it. Not on this channel. So in order to protect the bottom of the vessel from the basically inferno we're going to create, what I'd really like to do is make this out of steel, and I may actually pour, I've got a casting equipment, I may actually pour a harder, thicker version of this out of steel so that we get a longer life out of the boat when it burns to the ground, to the water, I should say. And I would say, if you want to do this correctly, Scandinavian waters are the only ones that are tried and true, but I think the Norse mythology contacts have been cooler over the years. They're becoming a little bit more, I think, environmentally conscious, and so you could do these in a gutter or a kiddie pool. The authorities at security at the Rainbow Bridge, they won't give you a hard time. They'll be like, all right, the spirit's there, you know, and that's what they're looking for. And to be truthful, we're not going to report back to this Bick's mom that he died in a horrible experiment where he was tortured and his head popped off. No, we'll tell her that he died saving someone's life, something like that, and that he died, and he deserved a Viking's funeral, and that'll be the story we spin, and nobody else will tell it otherwise. So we loaded it up with tinfoil. That's when we start stacking, and I don't have the gunpowder. And here, you know, like I said, I want the comments to help me dictate what we load up to send this thing off. And I would really love to wait for another big storm here in Denver. Have this thing ready. I don't know, we could douse it in kerosene. I can make some thermite. We could do lots of things, but what we want to do is make this thing spectacular. We want to get some good Norse music going, you know, some drums. Like I said, we got to show some respect. So yeah, we'll do something like this. We'll line, get a little bit of, we'll line this thing up with match heads. We'll place the subject's body. We'll have, oh God, put his skull back. Here we go. So we'll have a professional Victician come in and pretty this. You don't want the mom seeing all this mess. So we'll make it look good. We'll make it look like he's still intact. And then, we'll basically create some sort of, you know, beautiful, symmetrical mesh of match heads and then sparklers and progressively. That's how we could do it. But that's what I'm saying. How do you guys want to see this? I won't do it until, I tell you what, we'll have a milestone, 2,000 subscribers. When I hit 2,000 subscribers, I'll come back and we'll look at the top comments and we'll come up with a plan. And we'll burn this thing. And then when I die, and I'm throwing back mead with all the cool dudes, I'll pull out this lighter, say, check this out. And they'll be like, yeah, we saw the video, dude. We know you tortured that thing to death. It's not cool. And I'll be like, damn it. So what we're going to do is we'll make a real one, wood one, when one of these guys fails, and then we'll redeem myself. But until then, let's move on to the third thing. Why do I have a preference for orange lighters? This goes way back and probably has to do with some deep psychological things that under normal circumstances probably should be talked with by a professional, with a professional, and you know, but let's just start the basics. For one, the flame, it's orange, so it's kind of like one of those things. It matches what it is, the color. Number two, what better color to find in the middle of a forest or in the middle of anywhere? Snow. It's bright orange. Nothing in nature looks like this, right? So there's scales to this, and I'll just be blunt. I think people who have camouflage lighters are on the psychopath scale. There's something wrong with them. There's no point. Zero. Give me an argument. I want an argument in the comments that says, okay, here, buddy, here's your counter. Because I'll give you some counters in a second. Here's why. You drop a camouflage lighter when you're camping or hiking or hunting. Okay, that's a problem. Why? You figure it out. Second, this thing causes sparks and flames. If there's anything, it's like a pre-warning. When it's orange, it's like, hey, this thing's going to be bright and loud. So if you're in a foxhole or something weird and you're trying to elude people, I could say, okay, you got yourself a camouflage lighter. And once you start doing this, boom, camo's gone. Again, you can't find it when you lose it. And now you've got this thing that's counter. It doesn't, sorry folks, survival dudes. Nope. So I even go further. I wrap mine with UV reflective. Why? Because I can find it. I'm not trying to evade I'm not Rambo coming back from NAM, coming up against a Ryan Dennehy has some kind of grudge against veterans, and I'm like trying to run around and putting gunpowder in my bullet wounds. That's not me. I want to burn this thing. I don't want to burn my internal organs after being shot by a rifle. That's not cool. So let's get back to it. Why orange? Okay, those are two reasons. The flame matches. It's easy to find. There is probably a third factor. It's luck. It's like this weird superstition. I have not held or used or really, the only thing I did is I knew we were sacrificing homeboy over there, and I wasn't going to sacrifice a good orange lighter. So I sacrificed the neutral one right in the middle, and I'll show you my little graph here. Okay. And this is just me. You may relate. People can relate. So in reality, my trust scale goes from 0 to 100. And reliability, honestly, there's no difference in any of these BICs. I know this logically. Okay? But here's where chaos and order and my trust are kind of correlated. I trust orange. I start losing a little bit of trust with the yellows and reds, but I get their flavor. They're trying to feel. They're like, I'm just one step away from you, and that's okay. They have the feeling of it. Black, I respect the black and the gray lighter community. That's right in the middle. They're right in the middle. I don't distrust you. It's a neutral. It's like, okay. But when you start to get into the purples, greens, blues, then I'm like, whoa, you're losing me. And you know, I don't know. These people, like the trust thing's kind of lacking. You get the camo, forget about it. So this reliability thing is true, but then you take into unscientific emotional stuff. And what happens is my perceived reliability of these things. This is what my perceived reliability is for all these colors of lighters. So yeah, we got black and gray. And so in essence, camo, blue, green, purple lights, they're all chaotic evil. Because good is reliable, bad is not. You know, these are all my scale, so you can comment as you went. So I don't trust, camo is pretty much chaotic evil. Like, that's bad. These things are up there with it. Black, gray, lawful, you know, unaligned, neutral, cool. Yellow is like unaligned lawful because it's lawful to the feel of the flame. And then you've got red over here is neutral, but good. You know, it's like it's a good attempt at fire and heat. So, you know, these two kind of complement, but the true one is lawful good. The only good lighter in the world is an orange lighter. And that's the only ones I carry. So, but don't think that I'm like an emotional bastard or like, you know, don't have feelings, because I do. And that's why in a future episode, we're gonna send this guy off. We're gonna send this beautiful young lighter off to the afterlife. So our Bictician was able to kind of put the lighter back together. Good enough, right? I think with all the match heads and stuff around it, Mom won't be able to see that his spine is kind of coming up the wrong way. That's okay. Oh, here we go. So today we found out 3 things. We found out that, you know, lighters are awesome, and that I think anyone would recommend that as the primary source of fire. Any respect. I'm sure there's others, you know, ferro rods are great and stuff, but if you have the option to use a Bic lighter, then you should. There's no excuse not to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to see how we can help this guy out. So in today's episode, we figured out that we need Bic lighters. Bic lighters are essential camping gear. Found out that they're good for up to 3,000 strikes, or about an hour of use. One good thing about lighters that have a plastic covering, jokes aside, is that you can take the plastic covering off and see how much fuel in them, gauging how much is left, and stuff like that is good to know before you take off on a trip with an older lighter. Not every day we're going to be jumping around and doing a new lighter every trip, so it's kind of nice to know. Second thing, we figured out how to smuggle stuff into Valhalla. Yeah, so I'm more interested in, like, okay, traditionally, like, how many days do you have to do this? Is there like a window? Do you have to burn the body, so to speak, within 3 days, 7 days, or like, I can imagine the Vikings are like, yeah, maybe a month or 2. I don't know. But that would be good information so that we don't dishonor this poor lighter. And then the third lesson we learned is that only self-respecting people carry orange lighters. That the true test for psychopathy is people who carry camo lighters. Yeah, and I'm going to get the first comment, I'm a hunter. Okay, good for you. I hunt too, buddy. What do you do when you drop your lighter off your stand? It's 30 feet down and you're Well, thank God the deer didn't see my orange lighter. No, man. It ain't that. Your priorities are all wrong, man. We should all have our priorities right? We should be building Viking caskets for $1 Bic lighters. Want meaning in your life? Here you go. So my vision is something like this, right? Where we adorn this guy with a bunch of, it'd be cool if we crossed him, right? We did something like this, made it a little more dramatic. But we can come back, oh yeah. So there we have our conceptual pyre, but we certainly wouldn't be done with that. So I would be hoping for a severe storm and find a big gutter where you have torrential water, give this thing a sail. But what we can do is use cannon fuse, and we can strategically place the cannon fuse to end up going, starting out at the tail on both sides, kind of following this helix pattern, going underneath the hull, coming across these, lighting these on both sides in the process, coming up, around and down, and into the gullet where this thing is full of gunpowder. That's the kind of concept I'm going with. Now, that's point 4, and wrapping up this episode 10 of the OCD Backpacker series. What do you guys think we should do? A couple options here. We've got the long matchstick idea. We can go back with the kind of more traditional, or I think that's more aesthetic. But I'll let you guys decide. What else can we do? So we can, I don't think gasoline is necessarily needed, but we could use a different type of accelerant. But that's the beauty of the internet, and I'm going to let your guys' creativity help guide this. So, what do you think the fate of the black lighter should be? Please put some posts in those comments, and let's decide it ourselves. Personally, I prefer this configuration. I think it's more respectful. You can see Bic, his head, he looks great. I think this is a better send-off. I like the oars, but it's up to you. So thank you so much for tuning in. Help me decide the fate of this young warrior with your comments below. It's rough out there. Love one another. See you soon.